killer whales in the show pool. If you are not familiar with our SeaWorld killer whale family, we actually have 10 killer whales. We have 5 males and 5 females. The 3 in this pool, we have 2 females and a male. So the lady that just swam by me, she's turning around in the corner right now. Her name is Orkid. She was the very first baby killer whale born right here at SeaWorld San Diego. This lovely lady right here swimming by is Shouka. She just had her birthday on February 25th. She is 27. And this guy right here is our juvenile male, Nakai. Nakai was also born right here at SeaWorld San Diego. He was born in September. He's 18 years old. So we have an 18-year-old, a 27-year-old, and a 31-year-old. So the girls are mature females, which means they're pretty much done growing. Again, this is Orchid right here. Orchid's a little over 6,000 pounds. Shouka's about 5,500 pounds. And Nakai, being a juvenile male, means he still has some growing left to do. He's probably going to grow for the next, I would say, anywhere from 2 to 6 years. And he's already over 8,000 pounds, so he's going to be a big boy. And again, that's him right there. Some of the differences between males and females. Males are usually larger than females, especially when they're full grown. Also, their dorsal fins are a little bit more of a triangle shape, and they're much taller. They can get up to 6 feet tall. Females are a little bit more, usually around 3.5 feet, and they have a little bit of more of a surfboard fin curve almost. Also, if you look at their pectoral flippers, which are the flippers on the side of their body, you're going to notice that Shouka and Orchids are pretty small in comparison to their body. However, Nakai's are very large in comparison to his body, and they're going to continue to grow until he is mature. So they're going to be very large, very round, almost too awkward for his body. You might also notice as Nakai is swimming that he has a little bit of curvature in one tail fluke, but the other fluke, or the other lobe, is straight. So the dorsal fin and the tail flukes have no bone or muscle. The pectoral flippers do. So that's the difference between a fin and a flipper. A flipper has bone and muscle, and they actually have 5 bony digits, very similar to our hands. We actually took an x-ray of little Makani. He's 7 now. But about 4 years ago, we took an x-ray of his pectoral flipper, and it's crazy. It's very, very similar to what our hands look like if we were to x-ray. However, the dorsal fins and the tail flukes have no bone or muscle. So they're made up of a very dense connective tissue, which is very similar to cartilage. It is not cartilage, but it is similar. So if you reach up and touch your ears or your nose, it's pretty easy to bend, right? Move. So same thing with those dorsal fins and tail flukes. And sometimes over time, gravity just affects them and can pull them over. You see curvature in tail flukes very commonly in wild male killer whales. Their tail flukes get very large, and over time that gravity just kind of pulls. It can also pull the dorsal fin over. You see Nakai's is starting to curve a little bit. His dorsal fin is very tall. It's almost 5 feet tall, and it has no bone or muscle in it to support the height and weight. So that's a little bit shorter than tall I am. So I'm 5'9". So if I had no bone or muscle in my body, I might slump over too from gravity. So it doesn't hurt the whale at all. It just looks a little bit different. It doesn't happen to all whales. Shouka has a little bit of curvature as well, but Orchid's is nice and straight. Corky's our oldest whale. She's 55 and she's perfectly straight. So just kind of depends on the whale's lifestyle, their genetics, and of course every dorsal fin is completely unique to the whale. So it's kind of like their fingerprint. So no 2 in the world are alike. So actually scientists utilize dorsal fins a lot when identifying wild killer whales in their populations. You can also identify different whales by their saddle patches, which are behind the dorsal fin, those gray areas that are so pretty. Nakai's, I think, is stunning. They also have the white patch on the side of their peduncle. They have their white oval eye patches. All of them are a little bit different, especially if you can get nice and close and see. Some of them have very straight, almost like it was drawn like a pencil between the black and the white. Some of it almost looks more like a brush stroke. Some of them almost look like they have an ice cream scoop out of the white, so it creates a half C with the black part. So all of them are very, very different. That's one of the cool things. The more you come to SeaWorld and check out our whales, you're probably going to notice slightly different things. Orchid has a very large round melon. You'll notice Nakai and Shouka have a little bit more of a pointy face and head. Another cool way to tell those two apart. Also another way to tell females and males apart, if you ever get a chance to look at the underside of the whale, the nice white beautiful part. A male will have 1 long slit, a female will have a long slit and 2 smaller slits because she has the mammary glands, because they are mammals. So they nurse their young just like we do. So then babies nurse milk off of the females. It's really cool. They're perfectly designed for living in an aquatic environment. Because what the baby does is it actually curls its tongue and creates a suction, almost like a straw. And then all they get is the milk in, so no salt water comes in or anything like that. So it's a pretty cool little thing to see. And usually when the baby disconnects, you see a little poof of a milk cloud. So you know that they're definitely been nursing. So it's something really cool to see. So again, if you get a chance, we do have our underwater viewing open. So if you haven't been there yet today, all you have to do is head this way, head down the path. And we do have Amaya and Kalia, two of our females, back there, as well as Ulises, our largest whale, who's just shy of 10,000 pounds, a very, very impressive whale boy. And you might be able to see their mammary glands as they swim on by. So again, that's another way that you can tell the males from the females. Also, as they're swimming by, that white oval eye patch, a lot of times people think that's their eye. Actually, their eye is located in front of the eye patch. It's at the corners of their mouth. It's actually pretty small in comparison to how large the killer whale is. It's about the size of a cow eye, but they have really great eyesight. They can see great above and below the water. So sometimes you'll see our whales spy hopping, and that's just bringing out their head and kind of checking out their environment. They can do that when they're curious. It's also a very natural behavior that they'll do in the wild if they're communicating or kind of getting an idea of where their prey is. So it's a very useful tool, not only just to check out their surroundings, but also if they were hunting for prey. And it probably would be almost impossible for you guys to see, but I'll tell you about it because I get a very wonderful opportunity of being so close to them every day, is on their eye they actually have a mucus tear. So it's this very clear kind of gooey substance that's constantly secreting from their eye. And when you have very healthy whales, it's very clear, it's flowy, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. And it's actually kind of like a goggle. So it protects their eye in the water, and then if their eyes are above the water, it helps to keep them nice and moist. So that's one of the reasons that it allows them to really see well above and below the water. Because if you think about it, if we don't wear our goggles and we open our eyes underwater, it gets pretty blurry, right? You put your goggles on, ooh, so clear, same above the water. So that mucus tear helps them have that same wonderful vision both above and below the water, as well as protect their eye, keep it moist, and protect it from any debris. So again, perfectly designed for living in an aquatic environment. Also, the shape of the killer whale is a lot like a football. We call that fusiform. So it's small, wide, small. That's perfect for them to have great speed in the water. Killer whales can reach speeds of almost 30 miles per hour, which is very impressive. And again, all of that power comes from the peduncle, which is the end of their body that attaches to their tail flukes. And again, they use it in an up and downward motion. So that is very different from fish that use side to side. So fish and sharks, side to side. Killer whales, dolphins, other whales, mammals, up and down like this. Very cool. Very fast, very powerful. And the tail flukes are super cool too because there's a very prominent vein that runs along the surface, and that's actually how we get a blood sample from our whales. All of our whales are trained to roll over and offer their tail flukes. Very calm behavior, very easy behavior for them. And it allows them to participate in their own health care, which is wonderful. So that way it's not stressful at all, it's super easy. And we take our blood sample on our whales once a month, so we track everyone's blood to make sure that everyone's healthy. Some other things that we do to make sure that our whales are nice and healthy is we weigh our whales once a week. Not in this pool behind me, but on the far side we have a large scale. We simply ask the whales to slide up and we weigh them and we track everyone's weight, so we make sure that our adults like Shouka and Orkid are maintaining a nice healthy weight, and that Nakai, as well as his brother Makani and his niece Amaya, who are only 5 and 7, are continuing to grow, so they have a nice upward trend. We want to make sure that they're staying very good and healthy on their upward growth trend as well. Some other really cool things that we can do with our whales, that is all voluntary. So again, it's trained, it's calm, it's easy, the whales participate in it, so we can really take very great care of them, is we can do ultrasounds, we can do x-rays. As I mentioned, we did a Makani x-ray. We can check their bodies, we can look in their blowholes, their eyes, their mouths, we can get fecal samples, urine samples, different measurements of every part of their body. We constantly are measuring our whales, especially our growing whales, to make sure that again everyone is healthy, and also it helps with a lot of studies, especially for wild whale research, with growth rates, growth trends of killer whales, how quickly their pectoral flippers grow, how their dorsal fins grow, different sizes of tail flukes, all sorts of different things. We measure their blowholes, everything. So we can really get a really wonderful idea, because our population is so healthy here, that way we know what healthy whales look like. So when scientists are studying whales in the wild, they can be like, oh, that's a skinny whale, or wow, that whale doesn't seem to be growing quite towards the rate that we would think, so maybe they're not quite getting the food that we think they should be getting. So it's a really easy way to help identify if there's a healthy population in the wild or not. NOAA reached out to us probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and we actually took aerial photographs. So what we did is, our facility has gates and channels, which are kind of like doorways and hallways. So we can open those gates and have the whales all together, or we can shut off different pools for different whales throughout the day, another way to change it up. Well, in one of our back pools, what we did is we set up a camera up above, and we had our whales just swim through slowly. And we took photos of our whales. And what was really cool is we had a pregnant female at the time. So we have pictures of a pregnant female. Noah came back later. We have pictures of right after the baby was born. So what does a pregnant female look like right after she has her baby? What does the baby calf look like? And then for the next year as the calf grew and the mother lost the weight. So what does something normal like that look like? And then we took pictures of all of our whales because we have such a great age range. So that way we have all of this documentation from above of what healthy whales look like. So in the wild, what they'll use is drones, and they'll take photographs of the wild populations. And then they have measurements and calculations that they've figured out to figure out, oh, how big is that whale, how long is that whale, how wide is that whale? And all of that was figured out by using different calculations just from our measurements and our pictures from our whales. So then they can figure out, oh, that's a really skinny whale. Or, hey, that whale looked pregnant, she's back now, where's her baby? So you can get calf mortality rates in the wild as well. You can also see if populations are becoming more healthy, if they're gaining more weight, or if they're losing more weight. So different ways to figure out if whales are starting to get sick, or maybe if they're starving a little bit in the wild. So again, once again, our whales were part of that, which was huge. Our whales participate in a ton of different research projects. We've done heart rate studies. I was actually a part of that one, which is super cool. Nakai and Shouka helped out with that one. Corky started it. She was the very first killer whale to actually get an EKG. If anyone's ever gone to the doctor and get an EKG, it maps out your heart rate. Same thing with the whales. So one of the scientists came. We went through a ton of different prototypes of figuring out how we're going to get this, where's the best placement on the whale, and we got it down to such a small little EKG monitor that since then we've been able to put it on wild humpback whales and wild blue whales. They have never had a heart rate on a diving blue whale ever, and we got to do that. So very cool. As the blue whale dove, the heart rate monitor stayed on, I think, for about 18 to 20 minutes. So they have 18 to 20 minutes of diving, feeding, resting, surfacing of a blue whale that's never been done before. And that's all because Corky, Shouka, and Nakai were so patient and awesome and let us figure out, hey, where do we place a heart rate monitor? What's the best prototype? What's the best way to have it? And it's just suction cups, so there's nothing that can hurt the whale at all. It's a simple little suction cup device, and it has a depth meter on it as well as a speedometer. So they know how deep the whale went, how fast the whale was swimming, and then they got the heart rate, which is super cool. Obviously, the goal is to put that on as many whales as possible. I think it'll be super incredible when they actually are able to put it on a wild whale as well, just to see how so similar what their heart rates do. So if you don't know, what an animal does is when it dives, such as like a killer whale, a blue whale, or a humpback whale, they actually slow their heart rate down exponentially, which is kind of weird. But it's because they're reserving that oxygen, and they just drop it so much, and then as they come up, they bring it back up again. So it's very, very cool. It's almost opposite of what you would think. And then for humpback whales that will kind of jump up to get the food, they'll do this like big mouth open feeding, which is pretty cool. There's this quick increase of their tail flukes, and then their heart rate spikes, and then boom, they get their food. So super cool. All of that stuff just because our killer whales were a heart rate monitor for a couple years, here and there, getting the scientists all the research and information, and then we can utilize that in our in wild populations as well. We've also done milk studies with our killer whales. It is believed that the southern residents, a lot of times we think that maybe there's toxins being released from the mother through the breast milk, and maybe that's why the calf mortality rate is so high. So we've done milk studies when we had Amaya nursing off Kalia. We took a lot of different milk studies, so that way we could see what exactly is passed through mother's milk to baby. So a ton of different things. We're constantly getting asked by researchers to help out. I really love that aspect of this job, is helping the researchers figure out how we can train different behaviors. It's fun for the whales because it's something new and different. Anytime you're learning something new, your mind is getting engaged, which is wonderful. That's why it's important for us to constantly learn as well. And then so much of what we learn is then utilized for wild populations, not just for killer whales, but obviously for all sorts of different species as well, which is super cool. So right now the whales are just on their free time. They're hanging out. We've been stepping down quite a bit throughout the day, doing different things. What I mean by that is we come poolside, we ask them to come hang out with us, and we can do all sorts of different things. You notice I said ask, because we cannot make the whales do anything they don't want to do. It's all voluntary. But because we are so good at making it different and variable and fun, they never know who they're going to be with, how many trainers, how many whales, what they're going to be doing, what kind of session. Are we going to be learning something new? Are we going to be playing? Are we going to be exercising? Are we just going to be hanging out? Are we going to do a husbandry behavior like a food present or a scale? All sorts of different things. So we can change it up their day that way. We can also change up where they are, how many other whales are in the pool, how long they're there, what they're doing. So throughout the day, we've been stepping down. So this time, I just decided to come out and talk to you guys while we just let them do their own thing for a bit. And they're kind of all just enjoying their space. A lot of times, you'll see them with each other as well. But they're all just kind of doing their own thing right now, which is pretty fun. Earlier, we had our sprayers on. A lot of times, people think that's just to fill the pool, but it's not. It's all for the whales. So the whales love the way the sprayers feel on their bodies. They have sensitive skin. So different temperatures, textures, pressures of water sprayers. You could do like a light trickle from a hose. You could have a more intense spray. We have different brushes with different strengths that we can rub their bodies with. Our hands. You'll see the whales rubbing their bodies on their environment. They also rub against one another. Very social behavior. So earlier we had the sprayers on and they were playing in the sprayers. Again, another way to change it up is to turn those sprayers off. What's really cool about our facility is we have a lot of things on sensors. So we actually allow the whales to change their environment how they would like to. So they figure out where the sensor is. We don't show them. So it's part of the game. It's part of the fun. We don't show them where the sensor is. They figure out, oh, something turns on when I swim by this. That's interesting. And pretty soon they figure out, oh, if I want to turn this sprayer on, I go over here and I either splash the sensor or I spy hop or I raise my pectoral flip or turn on the sensor and then I can go play on the sprayer. So we have sensors connected to different sprayers. We have sensors connected. Eventually we have different bubble curtains within our channel. So we have bubbles that come up. We can turn them on all the time right now or turn them off, but we're eventually going to get those on sensors as well. Down at underwater viewing, we have a sensor where it turns on the TV and it almost creates a mirror effect so they can watch themselves on TV and do different things. We utilize mirrors as well. They like to look at themselves. It's pretty cute. The babies blow bubbles and blow kisses at themselves. They got their tongue, get crazy. So all of these different things. So the whales can change their environment how they want to. We can also change the environment for them. Another way just to make it different and fun. We're constantly thinking of new ideas and what to do. We utilize kelp. Ice, snow, jello, toys. We have a barrel right here. They love to swim with that, push it around, take it to the bottom, smash it into things. We're constantly thinking of new and different toys. Of course, we have to get everything checked by the vets to make sure it's safe for our whales. But that's another really fun part of the job is just trying to think of different games, we call it enrichment, but it's simply just toys and ways to tell them great job or have fun with them or play with them or stimulate them. So there's a variety of different things. You might notice that giant bar over there that's kind of hanging out. We can hang what we call tether balls. It's kind of like piñatas. We have different tether balls so we can fill them with ice or snow, jello, fish, kelp, all sorts of things. And the whales actually come up and bump it and things fall out. So that's another fun thing for the whales to do as well. And a lot of times they just hang out and do their own thing, enjoying each other's company as well. Killer whales are very social animals, so they enjoy the company of one another, they enjoy the company of us trainers. We spend so much time with them. I spend more time with them than I do with my actual family. They are my family. So we're here all the time, Christmas, Thanksgiving, it doesn't matter. We're here taking care of them. So our relationships grow very, very strong, especially every time you interact with an animal, it gets stronger and stronger. So your relationship never stops growing, which is also super incredible, I feel. So throughout the day, if I interact with Shouka 6 times and Orkid twice and Nakai 9, every time I'm building a stronger and stronger relationship. And every time I do something different or teach them something new or introduce them to something or play with them, again, it's getting stronger and stronger. So it's pretty cool to see how different whales have different relationships with people. A lot of times people ask, do they have a favorite trainer? Sometimes they do, yes. Some of my bosses have been working with these whales for over 30 years. So they have 30 years of reinforcement history with those animals. And I think with Orchid, I have a pretty good relationship. I've been working with her for 8 years, and then my boss, Katey, comes out. He's been working with her for almost 30. And it's a completely different excitement when she sees him. So it's very cool to see that. But he's put in so much time with her and getting to know her, and they just have a lot of fun. So it is cool to see that. So you do see some, I wouldn't say favoritism, just animals enjoying the company of certain trainers a little bit more just because they know them better. They spend more time with them. But that's what the great thing about is coming to work every day. Every day my relationship gets stronger and stronger. And one day I'll be that PD with Orchid, and a younger trainer will look at that and be like, man, I aspire to be that way with that animal. So it's a really, really fun job. It's a really cool thing to do. If anyone's wondering how you become a trainer, that's a pretty commonly asked question we get. A lot of it is on-the-job training, to be honest, but most of us have some sort of science degree. You don't necessarily need a degree, but it does help. Psychology is actually a really wonderful degree to get because it's the study of behavior, and we're studying their behavior all the time. That's what we're constantly watching, their behavior. We are all scuba certified, first aid and CPR certified. It helps to be a pretty strong swimmer. Their environment is water, so you want to be comfortable in water. It also helps to be comfortable talking in front of people. It takes some time. I was very nervous for forever. I still get nervous when we have new scripts to learn, but that's another trait that helps. Also, if you can volunteer or get internships, summer positions, whether it's with marine mammals, horses, cats, dogs, birds, pigs, anything. The more animal experience you have, the better. They really like to see animal experience on your resume. And you learn so much from any kind of animal. You really do. They're all so different, even amongst the same species. So the more time you're surrounded by animals, figuring them out, learning how to watch them and see different small things, that definitely helps as well. I've been training for 16 years, which is pretty crazy, and I've been with the whales for 8. So I've been very fortunate. I've worked with quite a few different species. People ask me all the time, what's your favorite animal to work? It's so hard to pick a favorite because they're all so different and you learn so much, but I think I would have to pick the killer whale just because it's an apex predator. So to have a mutual respect, understanding, and the fact that a killer whale